The Politics program brought to you as always by everybody who supports us at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. By the way, you want to flex on all your friends? You want to get yourself a Politics t-shirt? You want to get yourself a less bullshit, more horseshit t-shirt supporting this show? Huh? You want to do that? Well, you need to head on over to stickers or DIAF.com this Black Friday. All through the holiday season, we are selling heretofore unseen merch from this show. We got button packs. We got stuff from Jury. We got stuff from Night Attack. It's all happening at the zoo. And by the zoo, I mean stickers or DIAF.com. You can also sign up right now for our newsletter where you're going to get a free shipping code for Black Friday. That is at bit.ly/stickers or DIAF. It's all lowercase. bit.ly/stickers or, and then the letters DIAF. But enough of talking about how we support the show. What do you say we just do the damn thing?
Politics, 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 politics. Yes. Come on, come on, come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Politics program. My name is Justin Robert Young, joining you on a holiday Wednesday, the eve of Thanksgiving. This is normally about the time of year where news slows down a bit, so there's not as much to talk about, but we're going to do our best. We are going to make whatever measly portions of news into our own little smorgasbord, our own cornucopia of fun and entertainment. We begin with this. The White House Correspondents' Dinner will not have a comedian next year. That is because the Correspondents Association is taking the bold step to no longer have a comedian, but rather have an author discuss the rich and robust relationship between the presidents and the press. A First Amendment celebration that will be about as dry as your aunt's mashed potatoes. This, of course, has brought up Sturm and Drang from the people who have benefited the most from the Correspondents' Dinner. Daily Show comedians, including the one who apparently slammed the door on this happening again. That is Michelle Wolf. She called everybody a coward for not having a comedian there. Now, there's no question about the fact that this is happening because the point of the Correspondents' Dinner is supposed to be a good-natured ribbing for everybody. Everybody gets some fun poked at them. Everybody laughs. Maybe you drink one too many, and everybody else has a fun time, right? It's nerd prom, after all. Well, the White House feels that things had gotten a little bit too contentious over the last few years. Normally, the president does attend. Donald Trump has not attended the previous 2 years, and either with Hassan Minhaj or with Michelle Wolf, they don't feel that they've gotten... It hasn't been very good-natured, right? They feel that it's been mean-spirited and targeted, and specifically with Sarah Huckabee Sanders last year, who did attend, they felt that Michelle Wolf was maybe a little bit too... It was less funny and more mean. Now, you can't exactly have a celebration of the White House and the press if the White House doesn't attend. And that's why I suspect that this year's guest got boring. Is that at that point, if you're walking down that path, you have one of two paths to choose, right? You can either choose, this now becomes only a rally for the press in which we bash the White House, at least as long as Trump's there. Or if Pence wins, then through whatever that through line is. or, and now you are severing your relationship with the White House on some level, or you are bringing the White House back into the fold and saying, you want to know what? Maybe we just need a little bit of a reset so we can move forward better. Well, Donald Trump chimed in on this, as he so often does on so many different issues. He tweets, so-called comedian Michelle Wolf bombed so badly last year at the White House Correspondents' Dinner that this year, for the first time in decades, they will have an author instead of a comedian. Good first step in a comeback of a dying event and a tradition. Maybe I will go? Question mark. Michelle Wolf responded, you'd probably treat me better if I had killed a journalist. We'll get to the Saudi Arabia stuff. But it would not be the Politicsx program if I did not let you guys know that this is indeed not unprecedented. There have been non-comedians within the last 2 administrations that have taken their spot on that dais and proceeded to not do comedy. To remind you of that moment, I will be, whenever things get slow, a lot of times on these shows that I do, one of the biggest complaints that people have is, Justin, you leave too many pauses in your show. Sometimes this is necessary. I do a one-mic show. I'm live switching here on Twitch, twitch.tv/Justin R. Young. I'm trying to set up all the little visual effects that we do. So whenever we have a bit of a lull, I'm going to do my best to fill it in by playing Rich Little's set for the White House Correspondents' Dinner in 2007. Because if you believe that this is the first non-comedian to do this, then I'm just going to introduce to you the non-comedy that was done by Richard Little in 2007.
Do you know who else I could do for you tonight? And I love. You thought Colbert was bad. I love to do this guy, Andy Rooney from 60 Minutes. That little curmudgeon that you see at the...
Oh, the crowd goes mild. This is 10 minutes into his act, by the way. 10 minutes into a 45-minute act. I just want to bring you back to that moment. Just back to that moment, real quick.
Do you know who else I could do for you tonight? And I love. You thought Colbert was bad. I love.
That's the only laugh he gets. Colbert had come on and scorched the earth one year, and so they had to bring in Rich Little, and that's the only life he gets from the audience is shitting on Colbert, and then just listen to this non-reaction.
I love to do this guy, Andy Rooney from 60 Minutes. That little...
Tell me that it's not. I swear to God, this author is going to get more laughs than Rich Little did. He is going to get. I've been obsessed with this, by the way, in case you can't tell. In case you can't tell, I've been obsessed with Rich Little's routine from the White House Correspondents' Dinner in 2007.
Curmudgeon that you see at the end of 60 Minutes every week. The thing about Andy is he's always asking questions. Everything with Andy Rooney is why. Here's a few things that bother me. You know, if you're scared half to death twice, what would happen to you?
That's his opener! That's his opener on the Andy Rooney routine! And by the way, this goes so long. This goes so long. He doesn't even, then he gets into the presidents. We'll just go ahead and skip ahead. It's all fucking gold. But anyway, we'll keep going back to Rich Little throughout the throughout the episode. Let's move on. But her emails, too. Are you guys ready for But Her Emails 2? The sequel is entitled The Email is Coming from Inside the House. This, of course, refers to Ivanka Trump. The report is that she also used an unsecured email system during her time transitioning into the White House. She's been defended by her father. Quote, a CNN article, President Donald Trump acknowledged Tuesday that his daughter and senior advisor Ivanka Trump did use a private email during the start of the administration, but declined to acknowledge any hypocrisy over the criticism during the 2016 campaign of Hillary Clinton's similar practice. Quote, just so you understand, early and for a little period of time, Ivanka did some emails, Trump told reporters on the South Lawn. This is based on a Washington Post report Monday that the White House conducted an investigation into Ivanka Trump's email usage and that she used a personal email address for much of 2017. According to emails released by a watchdog group, American Oversight, the president's daughter used her personal email account to email cabinet officials, White House aides, and assistants. The Presidential Records Act requires all White House communications and records be preserved. Her legal team has said she almost always used her personal email to work out scheduling issues related to her family. Now, let's go ahead and break this down. Is this illegal? Yes, technically. I mean, look, we're in a weird moment in history. This is something that winds up vexing people often. About what is official business, what isn't official business, what can you use on a private, on a personal email, what can you use on a professional email. Is this embarrassing? Yeah, it's fucking really embarrassing. I mean, for all the time that Donald Trump spent, for all the time that he's been hammering on Clinton, that it was lock her up, for his own daughter to say that she used this email is fucking embarrassing. It's a bad look. It's a really, 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 really bad look. Is it different from what Hillary Clinton did? Yeah. In fact, let's go ahead and trace back that email controversy a little bit. Because I'm not necessarily interested in going back bit by bit and going through that email fiasco with Clinton. I do think that the problem with it is the canonical problem with the Clintons, which is that you can only hand wave shit away so much. And that's ultimately what hurt her. The fact that there was a private email server is, like I think most people understand, possibly a thing, but probably not. I don't think that anybody really would understand or would care about somebody saying, getting anything more than a traffic ticket for accidentally using an email that you shouldn't. The problem with Clinton's was she was in a very, very high security job. She seemed to evade any kind of questions around it. And there was the whiff of a cover-up. What with all the bleaching and the hammers and the beep, boop, 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 boop. And yet through it all, we got this very hand-wavy. Colin Powell did it. It's not that big of a deal. Everybody who's focusing on this is really just being mean to me. This is the problem with the Clintons, because you can only go to that well so many times. And between Bill and Hillary, it seemed to be their go-to move. Nothing could be a mistake. Nothing could be an honest mistake. Everything had to be defended. Everything had to be challenged. Everything was a nothing burger. Everything was a non-story. The reason why the email situation stuck around as long as it did and played the role that it did in the 2016 election is because an average person, when asked, a public figure may or may not have gotten hacked by a foreign government. Do you want to know what they did? Do you feel like they're being honest about this situation? Would look at Hillary Clinton's actions and say, I'm not sure. And if that's the case, then there is a crack between your trust with the government, trust with the people and the government. So when it comes to Ivanka, I'll tell you guys what I told everybody who subscribes to the Free Political Newsletter at freepoliticalnewsletter.com. That Ivanka's going to get hammered on this. Hammered on this. When she runs for president. Because right now, it doesn't matter much. The idea of it matters more as an embarrassment to the sitting president because of the campaign he ran than it does matter much to the world at large. Sure, Ivanka Trump's a famous person. Yes, Ivanka Trump is a special advisor. Yes, she has security clearances. But we don't know what was in those emails. And like Hillary Clinton, I hope we find out. And if we don't, I hope it's brought up when she runs for president.
Here, okay? First of all, here's George Bush Sr.
All right. For the audio listeners, the dead silence you just heard was Rich Little putting on George H.W. Bush glasses, hoping for a laugh and getting nothing. Nothing. Rich Little gets nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, understand. Good to be here. You know, the other day, this is true. The other day, I was talking.
Look at the guts of the crowd. The guts of the crowd. Nobody knows what the fuck's going on. Nobody knows what the fuck is going on right now. They're just looking. There's a dude in the back with his mouth over his hand, with his hand over his mouth. He's just like wondering, as if he's looking at roadkill on the side of the road.
I was talking to my good friend Bill Clinton. And I was talking to Bill. And I said to him, you know, Bill, we've known each other for a long time. I've never asked you this before. What's your favorite city in America? If you had to pick one city, what's your favorite city in the U.S.? Oh, gosh, I don't know.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my fucking God, Rich Little. Count the laughs. Count the laughs in that Rich Little routine. We're going to get more talking about chapter and verse by that fucking author. Here's something I'm tired of talking about. I know this was my thing. I talked about it a lot. This was my pet project. I'm tired of talking about it now. I'm tired. I got tired. I put up the white flag. I'm done with it. I'm over it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Jim Acosta. Jim Acosta got his groove back. I mean, his hard pass back. Jim Acosta officially is hard again. And this has come thanks to a ruling by a judge demanding that the White House allow Jim Acosta to have his hard pass back because the White House did not have written down rules of how to handle the White House correspondence. So, the White House has now written up rules that were previously understood to be just the rules of the road, the unwritten rules of the road for White House correspondents that Jim Acosta has pissed on the floor so much that now they have to make permanent. So I want to go ahead and read you guys an email that I got between last week and this week, because I went hard on Jim Acosta. I think Jim Acosta is a rodeo clown. I think that Jim Acosta is not an example of hard-hitting journalism, all caps trademarked. I think that just because you shout very loud questions that you don't know the answers to does not make you a good journalist. But I got this email from Clay. Clay writes, to say Jim Acosta is not a journalist, and what he does is quote-unquote not journalism because he asks tough questions loudly, is shameful. If you want the press to be nothing but glorified PR for who they interview, then keep saying that they should stick to softballs. If you want our news to be more like Russia or China, you're on the right track. I'll keep looking for people who ask the tough questions, even when they know they probably won't get an answer. We definitely won't get one if the questions aren't asked. Now, I realize that this was probably my fault because I didn't do a good job of explaining fully why I think Jim Acosta is a rodeo clown. I do believe in hard-hitting journalism, and I find the assumption that I don't to be a bit silly. I think that there are dozens of people, many of whom work for CNN, that are in those rooms and in those briefings that are asking hard questions. They're just not making a goddamn ass of themselves. By the way, those are the reporters that are asking the questions and writing the stories that break, and then Jim Acosta screams follow-ups to. Follow-ups that he did not write the story for, and that he is probably poisoning the well for the reporter that did write that story. There are many, 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 many people holding this president to account, including some that you could say are probably too antagonistic. Two of my favorites are Maggie Haberman and Olivia Nuzzi. I think that they're both very good at what they do, which is writing who farted and where, insider accounts of what's happening in the White House. They are good at tracking where the flow of power is going. Jim Acosta is not one of those people. So let's go ahead and look at the rules that Acosta has brought us. Number one, a journalist will have a chance to ask one question. Any follow-ups will be at the determination of the White House official, be it the president or the press secretary, most commonly. If they do not surrender the mic, after that, they will be punished. J.K. Grammer in our live chat here on Twitch says, these new rules are just nuts. And if you understand them to be draconian, I can see where it seems like an erosion of press privilege. However, I don't think it's fundamentally going to change much. It is a dare to Jim Acosta to keep that shit up, though. Because they wrote those rules, like, literally based on what Jim Acosta did. Jim Acosta asked one question, then wanted to ask another question, then refused to give up the mic and continued to shout questions. That is not something that he'll be able to do again. Effectively, we're probably going to see things roll the way that they do. Because again, there's a mutually beneficial relationship between the White House and the press. They do need each other. The White House correspondents specifically. Again, the White House correspondents, but a lot of people have asked, why does Trump call on Jim Acosta? Here's why. The White House Correspondents Association determines the seating chart and by way of the seating chart, the order in which people are chosen to ask questions. It is an agreement between the White House and the White House Correspondents Association, an independent operation, that they will abide by the seating chart that has been laid out. Sometimes they're pleased with it, sometimes they're not. Again, these are internal conflicts that happen to stay internal. So why is it that CNN and the White House can't keep these internal conflicts internal? And I will repeat for you again, because it is better from both of their points of views to be fighting. So now here's the question. Will Jim Acosta get wild again? Because I don't think they're going to try and pull his hard pass again. And Donald Trump has said so. The next time that Jim Acosta acts the fool, Donald Trump will walk away. And if Donald Trump walks away, well, then you have a question of, did Jim Acosta, like, the larger national narrative will be Donald Trump stifles press. But the narrative of people who actually have to do their fucking jobs, they will be pissed at Jim Acosta because Jim Acosta cost them the opportunity to ask their questions. Which, when you're a journalist, that's how you make your living. You write stories based on questions you ask. If you only have X amount of time to ask the questions, then that's all the time you get to ask the questions. If you don't ask the questions and you don't have the quotes, then either you can't write the story or you write a shitty story with shittier sources. And you have to write that embarrassing paragraph. The White House was not available to comment. And that's fine if it's not about anything vital. But if it's, a story about the White House, well, then it's usually better if they comment.
I've got a lot of favorite cities. I don't know whether I could pick one. I would probably say New York City's one of my favorites. Plains, Georgia is another. I would probably say that Chicago. I think Chicago is probably...
Rich Little is now just doing a real conversation between George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. Like, there's not a lot of jokes. It's not like, I'm sure we're going to get to a punchline here at some point. All right, everybody, count with me. In your car, in your head, live here. I'm going to start this. Let's count the seconds until we get to the punchline.
My favorite of all American cities, Chicago. Chicago. Listen, that's the worst damn city in the United States. I don't know why the hell you'd pick Chicago. I can't stand Chicago. All they've got in Chicago, believe me.
It's been 20 seconds. 20 seconds. 20 seconds where he's just having a real, ordinary workaday conversation between two ex-presidents about the exciting, pulse-pounding, dick-stiffening, nipple-erecting conversation of what's your favorite fucking city in America.
Hookers and hockey players. Did you know that Hillary was born in Chicago? Did you know that Hillary grew up in Chicago, George?
Look at fucking George W. Bush. They have now cut to a shot of George W. Bush, and he is fucking leaning sideways like, what the fuck is going on right now? What the fuck is going on? We are 30 seconds away from when we stopped it, looking for a punchline. I guess the punchline was George H.W. Bush saying there are only hookers and hockey players in Chicago, and Bill saying, you know that Hillary was from Chicago.
Oh. What team did she play for?
There we go. There we go. There we go. We got a long road to go and a short, oh no, it's Rich Little, a long time to get there. Michael Avenatti is in the news. Michael Avenatti, the Stormy Daniels lawyer, the would-be Democratic primary hopeful, was arrested for domestic violence last week. Now there has been a restraining order put on Michael Avenatti by his girlfriend. We read now from a TMZ article, or post rather. Michael Avenatti, alleged domestic violence victim, claims that they had an argument that turned violent with him being verbally and physically abusive, and now she has a restraining order against him. The woman, Marilee Miniuti, says that she and Avenatti were in, god damn, that's a lot of vowels between the fucking two of them. Said that she and Avenatti were in the master bedroom of their apartment arguing about money on November 13th when he called her an ungrateful fucking bitch, according to docs. She says he followed her into a guest bedroom where he verbally berated her and hit her forcefully in the face with pillows. She claims he said, "Do not disrespect me. You don't get to sleep in my house tonight." In the docs, Morelli says that Avenatti grabbed her by the wrist and pulled her off the bed into the guest bedroom. When she escaped his grasp, she started texting a friend. She claimed that he grabbed the phone out of her hand and started screaming for help out of the window. According to the docs, Avenatti then dragged her by her right arm into the public hallway of the apartment building. She says she was only wearing underwear and a t-shirt for help, but Avenatti eventually grabbed her and dragged her back into his apartment and shut the door, preventing her from leaving. Morelli says she was eventually able to get out of the apartment, but she claims Avenatti rode down the elevator with her while begging, "Don't do this, Morelli. Don't involve them," presumably referring to the building's security. Michael Avenatti, ladies and gentlemen, embroiled in a legal spat of his own. The details here are ugly. Michael Avenatti, from the day that he was arrested, said that he has never hit a woman. He now categorically denies all the claims being made against him and says that there is internal videotape around his apartment complex that will clear him of all charges. He has also not stopped tweeting. Michael Avenatti says on Twitter that this is a hoax being perpetrated by would-be Mueller smearer Jacob Wohl and being aided along by Harvey Levin of TMZ, who he claims is friends and secret associates with Donald Trump. Here's what he says about Jacob Wohl. Michael Avenatti, Jacob, I'm not laughing and neither is Mueller. Whatever you do, don't go and destroy any further evidence. Yes, we already know. The pro-Trump activist who smeared Mueller now insists he was joking when taking credit for the Avenatti abuse claims. But he's also continuing. Yeah, Wohl did brag about setting him up. I don't quite know how he would set him up in this scenario, considering all we know of Jacob Wohl as being a total fucking failure. This would seem to be a tremendous step up in his smearing operation, but we'll let the police settle that. Michael Avenatti has not stopped campaigning, though. He writes, Trump will not be beat by somebody that can't go toe-to-toe with him. He will ensure that 2020 is a brutal campaign. If the Dems nominate a person who goes high, he will be reelected. Dems will be looking around and saying, what happened. This is the central tenet in the Michael Avenatti claim to the presidency. In fact, there really isn't a claim for the presidency. Much like Donald Trump, he is focused way more on the campaign than he is on the presidency. It doesn't matter if Michael Avenatti, unless he goes to prison, it doesn't matter what he is charged with. It doesn't matter if it's a he said, she said. It doesn't matter if everything winds up getting settled out of court, if the charges wind up getting dropped. But it still looks like, because look, there's pictures involved with this. You can see red marks on the lady's body. It doesn't matter. Because the people that want to back Avenatti, not unlike some of the people that back Donald Trump, only care about their men for one reason and one reason alone. And that is unmitigated violence. Yes. Unadulterated pain. Unquestioned brutality to the other side. They want to say the things that need to be said. They want to punish the people who need to be punished. They want to stop being polite and start getting real. And that is what Michael Avenatti can promise you. It doesn't matter if the gun looks ugly. It matters if the other guy gets shot. He will continue to be a force in this race for this reason. Same reason that Donald Trump was a force in the race. When everybody, including ya boy, wanted to write him off. Because in a primary, the biggest story that Trump initially had was, oh man, how will Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Ben Carson react to Trump? Right now, we're watching Avenatti destroy Trump, and he will continue to do so. But what happens when he starts attacking people in the primary? What happens when he starts calling them complicit? What happens when he starts saying the things about Elizabeth Warren's DNA test that you saw in some of the far left blogosphere? What happens when Cory Booker's skeletons are brought out of the closet not by Trump, but by Avenatti? What happens when LA's crime statistics get brought up not by Trump against Eric Garcetti, but by Avenatti? The news value in watching these front runners stumble and react will be worth watching. So I had a friend of mine call in, a conservative friend of mine, when this first happened with Avenatti, and say, why couldn't he wait? Why did he have to blow up on the launch pad now? But I don't think this ends. Like many domestic violence cases, I think that the charges wind up getting dropped and everything kind of returns back to normal. I mean, let's not forget, domestic shit happens all the time in primaries. I mean, fuck. It was in the middle of a primary that Heidi Cruz got found wandering the fucking highways. Killtop09 says, will Avenatti get his own subreddit? Yeah. It's called r/politics.
Because I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic about the future. I see a country where there's clean air and clean water and clean streets. I see a country where there's no poverty and no bigotry and no unemployment. I see a country where there's no bombings no Al Qaeda, and no terrorists. I see Switzerland, actually. I'm seeing Switzerland. It's coming in. I can see it.
This is George W. Bush, by the way. This is a bad George W. Bush. And he's doing George W. Bush in front of George W. Bush. And he just sounds like Rich Little.
See the city. It's Switzerland. Take a look. Is the president laughing? Is he coming towards me? Good.
So, all right, you might not have picked it up, but he went from doing George W. Bush to just talking as Rich Little, and nothing happened. Like, there was no change, no vocal change in inflection.
Where there's clean air and clean water.
George W. Bush.
Good. So, Mr. Bin Laden, please
Oh, there
take
we go.
note.
We missed it.
Switzerland.
Also, Andrea Mitchell was not laughing. We know for a fact that Andrea Mitchell fucking hated the Rich Little said. Real quick, Donald Trump has kind of officially capitulated to Saudi Arabia. This kind of ends any hope that there was going to be a big White House kerfuffle over the Khashoggi murder. This has rankled the GOP. We already talked about this a bunch, so I don't need to go and rehash a lot of what we said. I did have one thought, though. Obviously, the Saudi royal family. I know we got some Saudi listeners. Email in if what you think about this. We know that the Saudi Arabian royal family is a complex structure, one that has often been compared to other family businesses, you know, like the mob. There has very recently been an upheaval in the power structure. That is the one that put Mohammed bin Salman as the crown prince, effectively as the de facto leader of the country. Despite his progressive, by Saudi Arabian standards, instincts, he apparently is a hothead, enough so that he wanted to brutally murder this fucking columnist. But I wonder now how much of the fight between Republicans is also a proxy war between power-hungry factions within the Saudi royal family. Because Saudi Arabia feels like a very odd place to be deciding that the United States should be getting into moral judgments about. It's a brutal place. A lot of fucked up shit happens. But for a couple different reasons, we are intertwined with the Saudis. We're intertwined with OPEC. We're intertwined in foreign policy. Anything that we want to happen in Iran, in the Mideast peace process with Israel and the Palestinian Authority, anything in Syria, it all has to happen in concert with Saudi Arabia. And we have somebody there that agrees with us about a lot of this stuff. He also happens to be the guy that murdered a journalist that was living in Washington. Oh, whoops. I just think it's odd. It's just weird. It's just a weird place to all of a sudden decide that we need to be letting Jiminy Cricket be our Secretary of State. That's fucking Saudi Arabia. I don't know. I'm not going to lie to you guys. This segment might go away. Because trying to find a poll lately has been hard. But we will do our best. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an Economist / YouGov poll. dance, 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 dance. This is a direction of the country poll taken from November 18th to November 20th with a sample size of 1,328 registered voters. Stepping up first to the stage with 38% of the vote. Let's get a big round of applause for Right Direction! But your headline, with 53% of the vote. Let's give a big round of applause to Wrong Track. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is Right Direction, 38%. Wrong Track, 53%. That is a 15-point spread in favor of the wrong track. No bullshit. We might have to come up with another segment. At least until the Democratic primary polls start coming out. We might need to grow up. We might need to grow up and realize that we can't be swinging on these polls. Yeah, unless we go foreign. Might have to go foreign. Open Bayou says that South Africa has a presidential election. Louisiana, Kentucky, Mississippi have a governor's race in 2019. Oh, I don't think we're going to have to wait long. I think it might be in 2 months, but might have to go a few episodes. Because right now it's just Congress, president, direction, Congress, president, direction, Congress, president, direction. All right, what do you say we get into? But your emails! You can go ahead and email the show, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Again, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Mark writes, I really appreciate your analysis of Trump and his relationship with the media. In short, this is mutually beneficial. I'm going to add editorially his relationship with CNN. I mean, he has a strained relationship with much of the media, but nothing as much as CNN. Each group needs a heel and fear to feed views. Differences are exacerbated and the electorate suffers. People move closer to the extremes. My question is, do you think that we will look back on this time as an inflection point? A time when the middle dissolves and the extremes become more dominant. I consider myself a blue teamer, but man, I would love to see a moderate Republican, not Romney, and Democrat, not Hillary, win a nomination. If nothing, just to give voice to the middle. The country is changing and people are scared, and the media, Trump, and many other shrewd politicians are going to heighten and exploit these fears. I wish we could focus on the issue that needs to be tackled in an adult manner, infrastructure and healthcare for starters. Talking about issues in respect and engaged ways isn't adrenaline producing, though I fear we are all addicted to the next clickbait rage-inducing headline. Anyway, just some lamentations from a beleaguered citizen. Thank you for hosting a platform for honest and humorous discussion and meaningful engagement. In a world of triggered folks, your presence and attitude brings me hope. Well, thank you very much, Mark. I'm glad to be here for you. I do believe with all my heart that you, like all the listeners of all political podcasts, deserve at least one of your podcasts to not be outright propaganda. Do I think this is an inflection point? I don't think we're as divided as we think we are. I think that we just hear a lot from the various sides, and we are in a fractured media world. I do think that we are in an inflection point for media. As long as we are in a click view display advertising world, we're going to continue to chase every little element of fear and loathing. Just because that's what happens. That's what gets the views. Daniel in Clinton, Mississippi says, first time, long time. I can't currently subscribe to your Monday and Friday show, so I apologize if you discussed this on one of them. I was curious to hear your thoughts about the election for Thad Cochran's seat in Mississippi. Cindy Hyde-Smith, a Republican, was appointed to the seat in April and has been endorsed by President Trump. She's also been filmed at a rally saying that she would attend a public hanging if invited by a rancher in the state. Not 2 weeks later, she was filmed saying that it would be a good idea to make it more difficult for liberals to vote, specifically referring to students at Ole Miss. I realize these videos may have been taken out of context, but I don't understand how anyone running for office in a state with our negative history could say these things. Mike Espy served as President Clinton's Secretary of Agriculture and has been a lobbyist and a lawyer ever since. In the 90s, he was accused of accepting improper gifts, and Tyson Foods pled guilty to bribery charges. Espy was acquitted because there was no clear link between the gifts and any political action. Espy also lobbied in D.C. on behalf of the president of the Ivory Coast, who's currently on trial for crimes against humanity. He then lied about the length of his contract and how much compensation he received. I was out of town on Election Day, and I can't bring myself to vote for either of these people. There's a runoff, Daniel has failed to mention. But I'm sure looking forward to discussions at the dinner table this Thursday. Hope you're doing well and have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Daniel, I didn't really know how to talk about this. I'm glad that you did. Good luck with all that. Scale writes about Julian Assange. Assange hasn't changed. He was never really anti-Bush or anti-Obama or even anti-Clinton. He was and is one thing, anti-globalist. He's also a bit of a Russian stooge and a bit of a self-aggrandizing douche in love with the smell of his own farts. But still, his politics haven't really changed. Everyone else's has. I don't know if everybody else's has. I do think that their opinion about him has changed, which is what I was fascinated by. Because I think he's, in general, a useful tool. Jade writes, I would like to request some context checking in on some of the statements that were recently made by POTUS. It is being reported that Trump and other Republican officials have made multiple statements that there is massive voter fraud being organized by Democrats and several recounts are invalid. Going so far as to stating that the court should stop the Republican representatives, and the Republican representatives should be declared the victor. It also appears that the Republican Party is largely remaining silent on the topic. The party's not pushing back on this view. The view is not being treated as a fringe opinion. There have been times where previously where stories were being widely reported that Trump were out of context. When you have reported on these stories, it's made that statements that seem very alarming are not so bad. Is this one of these cases? If the above is not being taken out of context, is this something that blue team and never Trump red team should start being concerned about? There is fear that if Trump was to lose the election, he would cause serious harm and faith to the democratic systems by denying the results and claiming blue team rigged the polls. Such an action would likely remove faith in the system for a large section of the population and have possibly violent consequences. I'd like to hear your views on the risks to democracy or lack of risks if you can believe that the threat is overblown such an event would cause. Jade, I do find the current vitriol around post-election day recounts troubling. And not to be Mr. Both Sides, but I'm going to be Mr. Both Sides here. I think that I am troubled by when if this is voter fraud, then we need to do something about it. What bothers me is when we talk about voter fraud or we talk about vote suppression, then we don't do anything about it. Because then that's just a scare tactic. If we really cared about the fabric of our democracy, then we would do something about it. It is something that we would need to follow the proper channels. If the proper channels were blocked, we would have to bring attention to it. But it does bother me when people talk about open voter fraud because although I'm not here to say it doesn't exist, I am here to say if it does, we need to root it out. And I'm here to say that if Stacey Abrams, who ran a great campaign, if she's going to concede but not validate the election, that bothers me as well. Elections and democracy are messy. They are ugly, tumultuous affairs. However, if we can't all end the process holding hands, even nominally, well, I do think that that's a bummer. Steven Schleicher of Major Spoiler says that now that the crazy times are over, the crazy times can begin. I was wondering what your thoughts on ranked choice voting is. I've only recently been made aware of the process and how it works, and it actually seems to be a system that we might want to use to update our democracy. I have ranked choice democracy for my mayoral choice here in Oakland. It's okay. I don't know. I don't think it's like a necessary thing. I don't think we need a federal ranked choice voting thing. But if somebody wants to do it, that's fine. That's the beauty of a republic. We're allowed to do some shit differently. Sean writes, can I get a quick and way too early take on the soon-to-be inevitable Sessions book, Fired from his dream job. Well, it'd be more like requested to resign from his dream job. I don't know. You want to know what? That kind of ties into Matt from Huntsville, who I wanted to signal boost here. I'd like you to stand ready to move my recent prediction about Jeff Sessions running for his old Senate seat in Alabama from conspiracy theory column to the realm of possibility. I maintain the following will play out over the next few weeks and months. And if you remember, Matt emailed in with this a few months ago, so this is his long-time take. I maintain the following will play it out over the few weeks or months. Number one, Jeff Sessions will resign and run for Senate in Alabama against Doug Jones. Spoiler, he'll win. He will also get an endorsement from President Trump. Lindsey Graham will become the new Attorney General. Nikki Haley will be named to replace Graham in the Senate. Nikki Haley will at some point, either in 2020 or 2024, become Mike Pence's VP pick. So this was a prediction made when Nikki Haley stepped down. I still think it's a long shot. I don't know if Lindsey Graham is dumb enough to give up a semi-permanent seat in the Senate so he can roll the dice on President Trump being his attorney general. But you never know. Matt, I am officially moving this from conspiracy theory to the realm of possibility. Let's go ahead and hit the closing music.
He said he's 2 sandwiches short of a picnic. His elevator doesn't go to the top. And I was outraged. I was outraged reading this. I couldn't believe that this.
That's not the music. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. This is so embarrassing. This is anything. Is it on my iPad? Okay, yeah. Here we go. This is our outro music.
What this fellow had written. So I went down to the paper to get a retraction, and I argued with him for about 2 hours. Got absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. And I realized it was hopeless.
All right, here we go. I think it's... There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, stickers are DIAF this weekend, Black Friday. Go ahead and get on our mailing list, bit.ly/stickers or DIAF. Politics shirts. Less horse shit, more bullshit shirts. Pins, jury merch, night attack merch. It's all happening. Stickers or DIAF.com this weekend and through the holidays. You can email us, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Music provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. You can follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere, and you can download archived episodes of this show at bonerwars.com. Want to keep the conversation going? Join our Discord. Think of it like an always-on chat room where PX3 listeners can share stories and keep talking. That is at bit.ly/jury discord. That about wraps it up for us. Ladies and gentlemen, some shows talk about politics. Others talk about politics. Still more talk about politics. But this is the only one that talks about all three.
He said, myself? This doesn't really matter. Who the hell cares what he says? I've had worse things than this written about. And after all, I've lived a life that's full. And not only have I lived a life that's full, I've traveled each and every highway. But more. Much more than this. The silent majority.
Politics.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.